For a while it was rough. Lately I've been doing better.
Before Jessica Sanchez brought a crowd to its feet in 2025, her voice had already been silenced by edits, by expectations, and by a music industry that nearly erased her. But now, she's rewriting everything. And what happened when she returned to the AGT stage, pregnant and fearless, left the world speechless. Before the world saw her light up the America's Got Talent stage, there was a hidden story Jessica Sanchez never told on air. A story that almost didn't begin. In fact, Jessica hadn't planned to audition at all. It was a single phone call that altered her path, one that took her from singing in parking lots to sharing stages with global icons. What viewers didn't know is that her breakout moment nearly went to someone else. But fate, in the form of a well-timed call and a quiet nudge from a mentor, shifted the spotlight toward her. While judges would later be stunned by her voice, they were not the only ones. Executives backstage were floored by the young girl's power. Jessica's story began not on stage, but behind the curtain, where decisions are made in silence. This wasn't just the rise of a young singer, it was the near loss of a generational voice. And so, before the camera ever rolled, Jessica's career had already survived its first twist. Her decision to take the mic that day would set in motion a story filled with resilience, rejection, and redemption. Jessica Elizabeth Sanchez was born on August 4, 1995, in Chula Vista, California. Her upbringing was rich in cultural duality, a Filipina mother named Editha and a Mexican-American father, Gilbert, who served in the U.S. Navy. Discipline, structure, and community defined her household. Though her family lived modestly, they were united in nurturing her extraordinary voice, first noticed when she was just 2 years old. Family gatherings became stages, where Jessica regularly sang for relatives who were awestruck by her tone and control. She was a product of her roots. Filipino ballads, Latin rhythms, American R&B, and church performances all merged to shape her unique vocal DNA. In many Filipino and Mexican households, music is woven into the family fabric, and Jessica was no exception. She learned from karaoke machines, cassette tapes, and community shows. Her talent was so undeniable by the age of 5 that her parents began taking her to auditions, talent showcases, and stage opportunities. Her voice wasn't just powerful, it was emotionally intelligent far beyond her years. Her culture didn't just inspire her music, it became her compass. Jessica's first major public moment came at age 10, when she sang Aretha Franklin's Respect at Harlem's Apollo Theater, an arena infamous for its brutally honest crowd. Her shy offstage demeanor vanished under the spotlight, replaced by charisma and vocal firepower that stunned even hardened audiences. This performance opened doors to her 2006 America's Got Talent audition at just 11 years old. But unlike many AGT stars, Jessica's initial run didn't include a finale. She was eliminated in the semifinals, and most notably, her performance never aired in full. Because Season 1 of AGT was still finding its format, many contestants, including Jessica, slipped through the cracks. Judge Brandy Norwood saw what others missed and pushed for her return as a wild card. Even though she didn't win or make headlines at the time, this early rejection proved essential. Jessica walked away with a lesson most young artists never learn: how to face a national platform, deal with loss, and still believe in your own voice. Her AGT debut didn't go viral, but it was the quiet rehearsal for a future that would. In 2011, a then 16-year-old Jessica Sanchez returned to national television, auditioning for American Idol Season 11 in San Diego with a stunning rendition of Celine Dion's The Prayer. From that moment on, she became a standout. Performances like I Will Always Love You and I Am Telling You I'm Not Going received standing ovations, earning her both critical acclaim and massive fan support. But mid-season came a jaw-dropping twist. Jessica was eliminated. The judges, visibly stunned, used their one and only save of the season to keep her in the competition, an event that remains one of Idol's most dramatic moments. Ultimately, she finished as runner-up to Philip Phillips, but for many, her vocal dominance throughout the season established her as the true star. More than just a finalist, Jessica became a symbol, especially for young women of color, particularly in Filipino and Mexican-American communities. She wasn't just performing, she was representing. Her presence shifted how viewers understood diversity on screen and demonstrated how resilience can outshine victory. After her Idol finale, Jessica rode a wave of national acclaim. She joined the American Idol Live Tour, signed with Interscope Records, and released her debut album Me, You, and the Music in 2013. Though produced by pop giants like Neo and Toby Gad, the album's upbeat, radio-ready sound felt somewhat disconnected from Jessica's soulful essence. Critics praised her voice but noted the lack of authenticity. Behind the scenes, Jessica struggled. Fame came fast, but so did pressure. As a teenager in the music industry, she faced relentless instructions: how to dress, what to sing, how to smile, and who to be. The label's vision for her often clashed with her own. Jessica yearned for stripped-back ballads and soul, not trendy club beats. In interviews, she later revealed the emotional toll of feeling like a product rather than an artist. The joy of music faded, replaced by deadlines, meetings, and compromise. Still, she persevered, releasing independent singles, exploring acting through a guest spot on Glee, and retreating from the spotlight to rediscover herself. Her journey didn't stop when the applause faded. It only deepened. While Jessica Sanchez became a recognizable face and voice, the audience rarely saw the emotional conflict she wrestled with behind the scenes. Post-Idol fame had positioned her as a rising star, but the reality of being a young, mixed-heritage woman in the industry came with unique, invisible weights. She was constantly being told what market she should appeal to: too ethnic for mainstream pop, too American for traditional genres tied to her heritage. Record executives, stylists, and PR teams shaped her public image in ways that didn't always align with how she saw herself. She was repeatedly styled to fit a pop persona, encouraged to sing tracks that trended on radio but felt soulless to her. In public, she smiled. In private, she ached. She missed the purity of singing the songs she loved, those full of vulnerability, depth, and cultural roots. The music industry wasn't breaking her spirit, but it was testing it in ways most fans never saw. And as she tried to navigate that maze of commercial viability versus personal identity, Jessica made a quiet but life-changing decision: to step back. Not to quit, but to pause, to reflect, and to begin writing music that represented her, not her label. This period was less glamorous, but more authentic. She began releasing music independently, writing lyrics that captured her fears, dreams, and frustrations. Though the songs didn't chart, they healed. And perhaps most importantly, they reconnected Jessica with the reason she started singing in the first place. Not for sales, but for self-expression. In the years following her debut album, Jessica Sanchez's name gradually faded from trending charts and top TV appearances. But this wasn't a disappearance, it was a recalibration. While many assumed she had exited the industry, Jessica was actually finding her way back to artistry on her own terms. She performed at intimate venues, collaborated with other independent musicians, and cultivated a loyal fan base online. Her voice remained intact, still powerful, still moving, but now she used it more selectively. Instead of seeking mass appeal, she pursued meaningful connection. She began experimenting with stripped-down acoustic performances, raw covers, and unreleased demos that she posted for her fans, many of whom had followed her since childhood. She engaged directly with supporters, even thanking them personally through live streams and meet and greets. Jessica wasn't just rebuilding a career, she was rebuilding trust in herself, in the process, and in the idea that success could look different than a chart position. There were no viral moments during this time, no splashy magazine covers, but there was growth. She took time to study songwriting, enrolled in vocal therapy, and started planning a future that aligned more with her values and less with Hollywood's expectations. This chapter of her life became the soil in which her comeback would later bloom. It proved that quiet progress is still progress, and that sometimes stepping away from the noise is the only way to truly hear yourself. In 2025, nearly 2 decades after her first AGT audition, Jessica Sanchez stunned the world by returning to the same stage, this time not as a child hopeful, but as a grown woman, an evolved artist, and an expecting mother. Her return was quiet until it wasn't. The moment she stepped into the spotlight, social media erupted. Fans from her Idol era expressed disbelief and joy. New viewers watched in awe, unaware of her long journey. Jessica's song choice, Beautiful Things by Benson Boone, wasn't a typical showstopper. It was intimate, emotional, and vulnerable. She didn't sing to impress, she sang to connect. Her performance brought the audience to silence before erupting in thunderous applause. Then came the moment that would define her second act. Sofia Vergara pressed the golden buzzer. Golden confetti poured down as Jessica, cradling her pregnant belly, dropped to her knees in tears. It was the culmination of years of pain, growth, and hope. What made this moment extraordinary wasn't just the vocals, it was the narrative. A woman who had been molded, praised, forgotten, and reborn had returned. Not for fame, but for fulfillment. Simon Cowell, who had never judged her on Idol, leaned in with a knowing smile and said, "I think they like you." And the world agreed. The performance wasn't a comeback, it was a declaration. Jessica Sanchez had reclaimed her voice, and this time she was keeping it. Jessica Sanchez's 2025 AGT Golden Buzzer audition didn't just trend. It sent emotional shockwaves through digital platforms worldwide. Longtime fans who had grown up watching her were now adults, tagging each other and reliving the nostalgia. Viewers who had never heard her name were instantly captivated, diving into her past performances and piecing together the chapters of a story hidden in plain sight. Comment sections across platforms filled with praise, tears, and heartfelt testimonies. One common thread emerged. This wasn't just about music. It was about healing. People saw themselves in Jessica, the woman who didn't peak early, who didn't give up when doors closed, who dared to walk away and then return. In an industry obsessed with trends and timelines, her journey stood out as timeless. Filipino and Mexican American communities rallied behind her, celebrating her as a cultural beacon. She wasn't just representing talent, she was embodying legacy, strength, and identity. Media outlets began revisiting her old clips, interviews, and underreported achievements, reigniting conversations about the music industry's treatment of young artists, especially women of color. Jessica's story was being reframed, not as a missed opportunity, but as a long arc of resilience finally being recognized. The Golden Buzzer didn't just validate her. It validated the path she took to get there. Jessica Sanchez's journey is still unfolding, but her 2025 AGT performance marked the beginning of a new legacy, one that's less about chart positions and more about courage. She has become a living testament to the power of reinvention, cultural pride, and self-belief. Her voice remains as powerful as ever, but now it carries with it the weight of wisdom, experience, and authenticity. For every young artist watching her, she offers a blueprint. It's okay to be unsure, to step back, to change course. What matters is that you don't stop singing your truth. Jessica is no longer just a former Idol contestant or AGT hopeful. She's an example of what it looks like to survive the industry, emerge whole, and define success on your own terms. Whether she goes on to win AGT or not is irrelevant. She's already won the hardest battle, against silence, expectation, and doubt. And perhaps the most moving part of her story is that she now sings not just for herself, but for her future child, showing them in real time what perseverance looks like. This isn't the end of Jessica Sanchez's story. It's the chapter where she finally gets to write every word her way. Jessica Sanchez's journey isn't just a comeback. It's a reminder that no path to greatness is ever straight. She's living proof that even after the world stops watching, your purpose can still grow stronger. What do you think defines true success? Fame at the peak or truth at the core? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories like this, only here on Suliwa channel.